Looks like your cat's about to sneeze.
Oh, that's her ass face.
Oh, okay. That's her ass
So
face.
she grooms me because when you're in a cat family, like when you have cats, if they groom you, they think that you're just a big dumb cat. So like she grooms me all the time, but I taste terrible. So she gets this ass face. She goes right for my ear. And what's more gross on your face than your ear? Like what's in there?
Nose is probably a close second.
Yeah, she's never gone for my nose. She's gone for my ear before. And then she gets she sticks her tongue out and then she gets this ass face. And it's like, why did I even do that? I'm just a big, dumb, dirty cat.
Paula's tagline for this episode.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I'm a big, dumb, dirty cat.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bry Guy and his Super Friends. I'm your host, Brian Labick. Joining me for this episode is Paula Miller.
Raylo is my halo.
Andy Stoles.
What's up, podcast people?
And he might be throwing some shade Paula's way, but Mike Bradley's here.
Well, if you predicted, I mean...
It's hard not to at this point.
Well, she's just baiting it. So...
Do I have to separate you two?
I had to make my own file on Facebook for all these pictures because I'm just a junkie. I'm shooting Raylo up my arm, sniffing it. I am absolutely addicted. It's disgusting.
Listen.
I mean, I literally got Raylo in the mail today. I ordered bobblehead Raylo. I can't order one without the other.
Well,
it's a sickness, and I'm not alone.
Luke never joined Vader. I don't see it happening here. I just...
Vader didn't live long enough to, have those moments, but he would have. He was redeemed. He was the chosen one.
As much as I want to see this argument play out, we are time constrained. We have to move.
We need our own podcast.
You guys should just do the Raylo podcast where Mike just shits on everything and Paula supports everything. It would be...
Kylo goes out like Vader with Rey's dying love, and Rey dies alone not long after.
Every Raylo fan theory Mike could just shoot down.
Let me know when you want to lay some money down.
All right, so yet again, if you, we're already starting, but our conversation revolves around Star Wars yet again. They can go notoriously long. We're going to try to stick this to a strict time schedule if we can. Of course, we always say that and we always go over, so we'll see how well we do. But to set up our topic, I feel like I'm going to have to go over some background information, get everybody up to speed if you haven't been following along. A few weeks ago, we talked about our impressions of Lucasfilm's latest Star Wars movie, which is Solo, A Star Wars Story. Paul and I were on that episode. We both said how much we actually really enjoyed it, but we also talked about how much that film was set to be a box office failure for Disney and Lucasfilm. And more to the point for Solo, we can't talk spoilers for that one because Andy is here, but Andy hasn't seen the movie yet. So we're going to keep this general spoiler-free for Solo as much as we can get into it. But anyway, the budget for that movie, we talked about it for the review, started at $150 million. Original directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller were fired from the movie with 3 weeks left of principal photography. This left the movie in a very, very dire position. Now, some of these rumors that have come out of the last week are now saying that Lucasfilm wanted to delay the movie at that point, and they wanted to push it from the May 25th release date to a December release date to give more time to salvage the movie. Disney apparently was fed up with all the delays on all the previous Star Wars movies and refused to allow Lucasfilm to move the release date. Not only that, but since the Avengers Infinity War was due out at the beginning of May, which was then moved up to a week earlier at the end of April, Solo would not get preferential treatment with marketing, so they were still sort of on their own as Disney pumped up Avengers. The only thing Disney did allow was the production budget increase of basically whatever was needed to finish the film to make it hit the Memorial Day release date. So somewhere around that time, Ron Howard was brought in to finish the movie. Rumors are saying he reshot about 70 to 80% of the film, which brought the budget up over $250 million. So to make a profit, it's always safe to say the movie has to double what the production budget was if you factor in marketing costs and stuff like that. And currently the film is about around 346 million worldwide, which falls somewhere around 150 million short of breaking even, which is a big hit for Disney and Lucasfilm, and it's the first Star Wars movie to lose money. So since Solo's release, there have been numerous rumors and articles about the fallout from this movie. There's rumors of Kathleen Kennedy stepping down or possibly being fired from Lucasfilm. There's rumors that Lucasfilm is no longer looking to hire new and upcoming filmmakers and will instead only work with veteran directors. Most recently, the main reason for this discussion, there's numerous sites reporting that Lucasfilm has put all of their standalone Star Wars movies on hold, which includes the rumored Boba Fett movie, Obi-Wan movie, and any type of solo sequels that they had planned. So, in the few days since those halted standalone movies, the movie rumors started, Lucasfilm has told ABC News that the reports were quote-unquote inaccurate and that there are still multiple Star Wars films in development that have not been announced that are separate from Rian Johnson's other Star Wars trilogy that he's working on and whatever series of Star Wars movies that are coming from the Game of Thrones producers. And we talked on the Solo review and listed a bunch of reasons why Solo may have underperformed, whether it was the marketing, the release date, possible Star Wars fatigue, The Last Jedi haters, all that stuff made the list. And again, after seeing Solo, I think we thought it was a really, really good Star Wars movie, but for some reason, no one seemed to give it a chance. And then the rumors of all these other standalone movies being put on hold, it seemed like a very reactionary decision to make from Lucasfilm. The blame seemed to be placed on the film. I don't agree with that at all. The more I talked to people about this, the more heated I felt like I was getting when we started talking about this. And so it really made me kind of want to frame the podcast around this discussion and see how everybody else feels and what we think might come out of this, if there's any truth to what we're hearing. I've calmed down a bit, I think, since then, since some of these updates to the story have been somewhat encouraging. Lucasfilm at least coming out and saying, the reports are wrong and we're still working on stuff is better than what we were hearing originally. So, just to open up to you guys, I guess, and get your thoughts on this, maybe I'll just start with, how much do you think we should read into this? Do you think some of these unannounced Star Wars movies, such as Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, are scrapped, or do you think Lucasfilm was just taking time to rethink their strategy with these standalone movies?
Personally, I'm going to say not everything you read on the internet is true. And there's a lot of Star Wars haters out there after The Last Jedi. It created a lot. It created a lot of problems for people. And so creating rumors like this would not be a shock to me, to just be something that was completely fabricated. As well as, I will say, I think this stuff is just baloney about them canceling these projects. The stuff about Kathleen Kennedy may not be.
Okay, so let's stick with the movie part of it first.
Okay.
Before we get into the Kathleen Kennedy stuff.
The only thing I would say is on that aspect, just one point that I would make is that if Solo releases when The Last Jedi released, take away The Last Jedi release and push that, say, to this year in December, and have Solo released this past December, that Solo movie makes more than Rogue One.
Okay.
If you release it in December this past year without The Last Jedi, without the competition, without all the other factors, I think all the factors you listed added up to all the different problems that this movie was going to have. But the movie itself is good enough that if you put it in that slot without the competition, it's making just as much as Rogue One did.
I think even if it would have moved to
agree.
December this year, I think it would have been fine.
You still have some of the other factors in play.
Right, yeah. The haters of The Last Jedi still might avoid this movie, but I think just not having the competition that it had in May.
Oh yeah, the competition
would
was
make
ridiculous.
all the difference.
Like what everybody knew was going to be one of the biggest movies of all time, released a couple weeks before it.
Right.
We all knew that was coming. Like, we all knew ahead of time this movie was going to tank because you had Deadpool and Infinity War to compete with.
And Deadpool's looking real smart now because they were supposed to release after Solo, and they moved their release date up the week before Solo.
Yeah.
So either they knew what was going to happen, or they just figured, we're going to take our chances, and they won that bet.
Yeah. Then what does Fox have to lose?
Well, at this point, yeah, I guess that's true.
I also saw on Twitter, Ron Howard responded and said the same thing, like the rumors, don't believe the rumors. Don't believe everything that you read. They're not true. So that was straight from Ron Howard's Twitter.
About
but
all
I
the
agree with
standalones being on hold and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with Mike. I feel like if it was released in, like you said, this December, it definitely would have been a Rogue One generator.
Andy, any thoughts?
Well, it sounds like Ron Howard righted the ship from whatever they thought Chris Lord and Phil Miller were doing, from what I can tell from everyone's reaction to the movie. So I'm kind of excited that they're like that he might be in like the pool to do more Star Wars story movies outside of like the main story stuff. So if we get more Ron Howard Star Wars stories, it sounds like that would probably be a win.
Yeah, I'd actually love to see him come back and do another, especially a solo sequel.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm itching for that.
Honestly, if Ron Howard and John Kasdan want to do it together, I am all behind it.
Yeah, because I think Larry Kasdan's done, but his son could definitely keep going.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think when we talked about it last time, you can always ask Dad what he thinks. Even if Dad isn't officially working on it, when it's Dad, you just give him a call and say, "Hey, I was thinking, no, don't do that."
Yeah.
So.
Well, the only thing with these stories is that I don't think they're just rumors. Like I found separate articles from different sites that I find credible, each saying they talked to specific unnamed Lucasfilm sources that are saying something behind the scenes is happening. Now, whether or not Lucasfilm taking a pause with these movies and trying to rethink budgets and how to make them and where to distribute them translates to they've all been halted, that could, just be lost in translation somewhere.
And maybe they're thinking that they were flying too much to the left with directors too, because from what I read, it was they wanted to get like some fresh, unheard of, maybe new directors, but that's not working for them, obviously. So now they have to go back to the drawing board. But Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong. When I was doing my research, like we've been hearing about a Boba Fett movie since like 2014. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's been in the pipeline forever. So like all of a sudden they're saying, oh, no more Boba Fett movie. Well, we've been waiting forever. So
there's a lot of these movies that are talked about, but they have not been officially announced. As much people want to talk about an Obi-Wan movie getting started and being in production, that has never been officially announced. Same with Boba Fett. There's rumors that James Mangold is making a Boba Fett movie, but Lucasfilm or Disney has yet to come out and say James Mangold is making a Boba Fett movie. Same with, like, way back in the day when, why am I blanking on his name? But the guy that shot Rogue One, Gareth Edwards, directed Rogue One. When he was announced as that director, somewhere in there, they said, oh, Josh Trank is going to direct a Star Wars movie as well.
No.
They never told us what movie that was. It was rumored to be Boba Fett.
Yep.
Now, things played out differently, and Josh Trank got fired or left that project, whatever you want to believe. So they've had a revolving door of young, talented filmmakers that they can't get to these movies or keep. Now, whether it's creative differences or what it is in the development process that is pushing these people away from these movies, that's something I think that needs fixed. I do really think that the standalone movies should be done with new up-and-coming filmmakers, and those should be the experiments. I think you use the veteran, experienced directors for the episode movies, 8, 9, 10, 12, whatever you want to do, and all these in-betweener movies that focus on characters or new characters in a different era or something. I think those are the ones where you experiment with genres and different styles and let people have fun with a Star Wars license that you can't typically do. Rogue One and even Solo, to an extent, all feel like classic Star Wars, which isn't bad, but I guess I wanted something different. They experiment maybe with the genres a little bit, because Rogue One was kind of like, the war movie, and Solo felt a little bit like a Western and stuff, but they still really, really felt at their core to be Star Wars stuff, and maybe I still expected something a little bit different.
And I don't think that you're necessarily wrong, and I think that there's some proof to that, in that, Rian Johnson wasn't really that established director, and you have, the reaction, even though I love Last Jedi, you have the reaction to Last Jedi from all these people that's obviously a large amount of it was negative. And you have Rian Johnson doing that, and that movie made a ton of money, but it negatively affected a movie that I think people that have seen it are kind of unanimously behind. People really like the Solo movie. Not as many people have seen it, but they really like it, and it's a Ron Howard movie. And so we have a Ron Howard movie that came out really great, according to pretty much everybody, and a Rian Johnson movie that came out about half and half as far as opinion on it.
Yeah.
And I think had it been the other way around and, The Last Jedi had that overwhelming support from the people that watch it like Solo does, and Solo had the 50-50, there wouldn't even be discussion about whether or not they were going to be canceling anything. Because Solo would have made a killing and people would have just wrote it off as, well, okay, Rian Johnson just wasn't made for Star Wars or something. And then he wouldn't have been asked back to do any more of the episodic Star Wars, or not the episodic, the Star Wars stories.
Yeah.
And people wouldn't, the community wouldn't have had such an upheaval about it had it not been a main episode. That there was that divisiveness involved in.
That's the thing. I always thought I was really expecting Solo to get better numbers just based on word of mouth. Anyone that I talked to that had seen it loved it, and you'd think that would generate people to want to go see the movie just from positive stuff that you're hearing from people that have seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people that I know I talked to that said, yeah, I do want to see it. And then just that time of the year with Memorial Day weekend being busy and then like summer stuff for people, it never seemed like a lot of people that I felt like wanted to see it couldn't find the time to go. And then before you know it, it's out of theaters because it didn't do very well. And now you can't really see it.
Yep. Yeah. And a lot, just like we said, a lot of the people that I talked to said, well, it was that or Infinity War, or it was that or Deadpool.
Right.
And,
yeah.
I mean, I'm already seeing pop-ups on my Facebook page for ordering it for the pre-order for the DVD.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why do I need to see it again? I'm just going to order it.
Yeah, I'm hoping it does gangbusters on home video.
Oh.
Like, surprises people and really sells well on home video.
But although I did not see Rogue One twice. I only saw it once in the theater. But I did, I purchased it.
You just haven't watched it since you bought it?
No, I've watched it.
Okay.
I just only saw it once in the theater.
Okay.
So the same with, I really had great intentions of seeing Solo again, but like Mike was saying, there's so many movies out there that I have to see, and I'm like, I just didn't find the time to see it again. So it's popping up on my timeline. I'm going to pre-order it from Target. I'm going to get all the goodies. So why am I going to, waste my money to go see it again?
Right.
Not waste my money, but it was a great movie. But I'm reading a lot about like why people didn't go to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was because they were upset with Rian Johnson. They're upset with Kathleen Kennedy. They didn't like The Last Jedi. But a lot of people, too, are saying it's fatigue. Like, it's just, it was too soon. It was right after The Last Jedi. So, is Star Wars is their fatigue of Star Wars. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, like, how many years were we without any Star Wars? Right. Now we're tired of it already? It's just so frustrating.
I think we talked about on our review, Paula, when we did it, that the marketing for Solo happened so late, maybe 2-3 months before the movie came out. And right when it started to ramp up was when you see advertisements for the home video release of The Last Jedi. So that was overshadowing the promotion for the next movie. On top of all the other blockbusters that were coming out, it just got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, the way I
like, Brian, how many times are we talking about like when the preview? Like, we didn't even get the preview.
Oh yeah,
of it till really late.
Yep.
Well, I think the first trailer was Super Bowl Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in February when the movie released in May.
Yeah. I was thinking that, take the movie, put it into this December, and have them do what they did with The Last Jedi. Release that trailer in April this year to get people ready. Don't announce it. Don't let anybody know it's happening. And then just you're in the theater for, I don't know, something that came out in April. Infinity War, maybe. And what a better movie to promote it with. And all of a sudden, bam, Solo movie preview. You didn't even know the Solo movie was happening. Instant hype.
So what we could do is we could actually question someone who hasn't seen the movie and figure out why he hasn't gone to see Solo. Andy, you are on the hot seat.
I I just didn't have the time. We've been really bad at seeing movies in the theater lately. We've been doing a lot of home movie watching.
Okay.
Because we still have a pretty huge backlog of that. As far as being mad about Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi, I like that movie a lot. It's not my favorite Star Wars movie, but I'm all for any other Rian Johnson Star Wars movies out there. And it's give me more Star Wars. Like, I'm pretty much checked the box of yes for any of the Star Wars stuff that'll come out. So I wouldn't say that, I'm Star Wars'd out or anything.
Well, the other way to look at it is, yes, there's probably a little bit of franchise fatigue, only because I think 6 months between movies, especially maybe Star Wars movies specifically, because we're getting Marvel movies like every 3 months, and that's fine. But maybe Star Wars movies should be at least a year apart, just to give you that time to digest the one that came before. Yeah. But for people that didn't like The Last Jedi, why swear off every other Star? If you don't like that one, okay, so that one kind of sucked. Just watch the next one. You're going to continue to get Star Wars content. Maybe you'll like the next one if you just go see it.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. How many times did people see Phantom Menace before they were like, "Nope, this movie sucks"?
And then the clones.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones. People go to see that. Like, same thing. Like after Phantom Menace, they went like crazy to see that. And then 2 movies in a row that were generally thought to suck, and Revenge of the Sith still killed it.
And maybe that's the different mentality. Well, maybe that's the difference between 3 years apart of movies. It's like they see Phantom Menace, you have to wait 3 years for Attack of the Clones, but by the time Attack of the Clones comes around, you're like, you know what? This one's going to be good. And then you see that, and then you're like, I don't know. And then 3 years go by, and you're like, you know what? This one's going to be good. And
yeah,
I don't know. It gives you time to they build up the anticipation for that too when it's that far apart.
I feel like Attack of the Clones I think is the
market.
good example, because you knew the third one in that series was going to do gangbusters, because you knew you were getting that conclusion to the Darth Vader story, that origin story. You knew what was coming. The first one was Phantom Menace. That was the first Star Wars in 20 years. So it was like, my God, everybody's going to go see it. Attack of the Clones. There was really nothing to draw people into that as the middle movie. And I think that, Last Jedi is having a bit of that middle movie, melancholy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I don't know. I think... Andy, let me ask you this question. I think this is an important one, because I don't know that you really addressed it. You said you've been having a hard time getting out to see movies. Did you see Infinity War in the theater?
Yes.
And did you see Deadpool 2 in the theater?
No.
Just out of curiosity, Andy, what is the last movie you've seen in theaters? Was it Infinity War?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, and I think... Yeah, I was hoping we could shed some light there, but it didn't work.
We don't want to make Andy the punching bag for all this.
No, I just wanted to find out.
It's my
Andy,
fault.
I do want to spin back around. Yeah, we're going to blame you at least a little bit.
Hashtag my fault.
Andy, I want to spin back around to you. As far as how do you feel about them possibly doing away with experimental and up and coming directors? Do you like the idea of them going just traditional veteran directors for everything?
No, I don't. The problem is I don't feel like they're giving the experimental directors a chance. I mean, even Gareth Edwards had people come in and reshoot stuff.
Yes.
As much as Phil Lord. There was a lot of drama around that one, the Ron Howard takeover, but I feel like they're not giving it a chance. They're making these snap decisions without really letting these things soak in and seeing how these things do. They're like, nope, don't like it, out with you, fuck off, go somewhere, just let it sink in, let it it might shine, you never know, I don't know.
And that's a valid point, because I think they're bringing all these people on, they're trying to do something, and then I don't know if it's just the amount of money that they're playing with, where these Star Wars movies have to be a hit for Disney. Like, they don't want to take a hit on Star Wars. So if they try and experiment and it fails, they're less likely to try that again. And at this point, it seems like they don't even want to experiment anymore.
Right.
And
I think they're very afraid of failure because, like, you're working with the Star Wars franchise. Like, there's a lot of expectations. Like, everyone's got a high level of expectations for a Star Wars movie.
Right.
So, I mean, we were getting them so far and few between that it has to be great. But then you give Rian Johnson a movie, and then look what happens to that. Everybody has a really strong opinion of whether they love it or whether they hate it. And then you have Kathleen Kennedy, who's pretty much taking the fall for that. So she comes in and says, you know, this isn't the direction that a Star Wars movie should be. It's not the expectations that we're looking for. We're gonna change it up. And she's pretty much screwed either way.
Well,
yeah, and let's spin into that.
I was gonna
with the Kathleen Kennedy stuff.
The only comment I'd have on what was said before is that I think with the experimental directors in these 2 Star Wars stories they went to tell, they took 2 very monumental things to task in these first 2 with Rogue One and Solo. They're 2 very important parts of the story that people would have these deep emotional reactions to if anything was done wrong. And I think that might be why the hand-holding was happening so much with the new directors they were taking, which kind of defeats the purpose of getting new directors, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I don't know when the experimentation happens if you want to try to get people hooked with stuff they know. But now it's like you get used to what you know. And then, what? Oh.
I wonder how much George Lucas knew about, like, the Lord and Miller version. Because he visited the set with Ron Howard. So I wonder how much he... Like, I wonder if...
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really read or heard that Lucas was on set for when Lord and Miller were shooting. It only seemed like he showed up the first day Ron Howard shot, just to be a calming presence, I guess, on set.
Maybe like, hey, everything's okay.
Right, yeah, it's one of those.
Wink, the George Lucas wink. Wink.
But yeah, let's spin off into the Kathleen Kennedy stuff, because I think this is the other rumor that I want to dig into, because this irritates me too. And, I mean, I guess I can understand what's happening, but someone is basically going to have to take the blame for Solo. Now, they started pinning it on marketing, and they blame the marketing department that the movie wasn't marketed well enough to be able to be a hit. But, like Paula was saying, and I think Mike too, with The Last Jedi being as divisive as it is, sure, it made a shit ton of money, but you splintered the fan base. And then some of the fallout for that hits Solo. So now this seems like a trend as far as the company is concerned. Disney and maybe Disney, maybe not even Lucasfilm, but Disney is now concerned that the cash cow that they bought is not going to bring in as much money as they think it should be doing. And if you look at all the revolving door of directors that have come through Lucasfilm, you could probably pin that all on Kathleen Kennedy too, whether it's her idea that these movies are not living up to what they should be, and she wants to make she has an idea for what they should be. So she brings people in to fit that mold, but it's not looking good from a PR sense if every time you hire a director, you fire them before they finish the movie they were hired to do. And that's happened at least 3 times.
Yeah,
at least twice, maybe 3.
Makes new and upcoming directors not even want to be a director for your movies.
Right. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to want to come close to these Star Wars movies. At first it was like, okay, we're going to give these people that grew up with Star Wars a chance to play in that universe. And when they start playing, you're like, no, you can't play that way. You have to play my way.
Yeah.
Like that. That's not the way to do it, I don't think. But
yeah, I think what you're saying is like they're bringing in a new director. This person, we're like, we like your style. We like how you're doing things. Here's your script and story and your screenplay, and this is exactly how we want it done. Do that. Give us that, and we'll be happy. Don't give us that, and we're probably going to get Ron Howard to fix this, and
he has like a secret fat phone in his house.
Now, as much as I'm reading rumors about Kathleen Kennedy being on the chopping block and either getting fired or resigning or something from Lucasfilm, there's always the articles that counter that.
Right.
So, and I even read one, not to counter it, but there was one that popped up actually today. And I don't know anything about the Daily Wire, so I don't know how much of a credible source this is. And just the author of this sounds like they hated The Last Jedi, just the way they're phrasing, the way they're talking about Star Wars, and they make it seem like it's a good thing if Kathleen Kennedy goes, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with. But they're talking about somebody that I guess it's a YouTube source. There's someone on YouTube that apparently got wind of something, that Bob Iger recently held a secret meeting with Disney top brass, including the heads of Pixar and Marvel, on ways to fix Star Wars.
What?
And part of that would be Kathleen Kennedy being gone and then trying to find someone to replace her. And the article goes on to say that even if it was up to, that possibly even Iger wants to fire her, the problem is no one wants to touch this franchise now. Mainly because I guess my interpretation is that if you take over Star Wars, just like if you took over a directing job for a Star Wars movie, you are expected to perform well with this franchise. And if you don't, you're in a lose-lose scenario for that kind of thing. So I don't know who wants to step into that.
Yeah, if you succeed with Star Wars, it's like, great, good job. You made something like Star Wars succeed. You know,
right.
Good. And if you fail, it's an epic failure.
But I think there's a lot of people that are loyal to Kathleen Kennedy, too. So I don't know, like, if you oust her and bring someone else in to replace her, I don't know how well the behind-the-scenes stuff is going to work there.
I mean, her resume kind of speaks for itself. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And
so
the Daily Wire, I would take every single thing you ever see on that with a very fine grain of salt.
that was very infuriating.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire is not reputable.
Yeah, because according to
experience.
the source that they are citing, that even that the possibility of Kathleen Kennedy leaving, that they apparently even tried to offer it to J.J. Abrams and said, "Do you want to be the president of Lucasfilm?" And who turned it down flat on the spot and said, I don't want to do that. This is what I'm reading for in the article. I see your looks. This is what I read.
And that's all the more reason that it's, in my opinion, that's very clear that it's hogwash. There's not a single person in charge of a company like Disney ever in the history who's going to look at a director and say, we need you to run the entire company. Because J.J. Abrams, if there's a lot of things he knows, I guarantee you one of them is not accounting.
I think they have people for that. Like, I think it's more they want someone to craft stories and get the franchise back on track, which is less so in maybe the business side of it, but more so in like what can they do to bring fans back into the fold.
I think if she were to retire or step down, I think like a suitable choice would be Dave Filoni, since he's
hands down, yes.
Yeah, if there's a choice,
although
please.
That's the other thing too, is like someone that's that creative like that and working on stories and well, of course that goes against the argument I just made, but like I don't know if he would fit into the I guess the businessy side of it. But as far as telling good Star Wars stories, yes. If it's up to him to tell good Star Wars stories, yes. By all means, put him in charge.
Yeah, I mean, if they feel like they need a new creative direction, one, that doesn't mean you need somebody to be the new head. The Kathleen Kennedy does not control all creative. You know what I mean? She's not...
Well, that's what they have the story group for.
Yeah.
Like, the story group helps craft stories, too. So if people are if that group and Kathleen Kennedy and people involved are signing off on these stories to the point where they're being made into movies, she can't be the only one to blame here. Not to mention, the other freaking 3 Star Wars movies that came out, Force Awakens, Rogue One, and Last Jedi, all made over $1 billion. Solo is the only box office failure as far as Star Wars is concerned, so this is still too early to jump the shark on her.
Yeah, the first 3 Star Wars movies I wrote down globally grossed $4 billion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
so as divisive as The Last Jedi was, it made a shit ton of money.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Disney's giant stomped all over Solo. Like, like, don't get me wrong, like, I'll come back to Infinity War every time with this, because it's not, to me, that's the answer as to why Solo failed is hard.
Yeah.
You know, not only do you have a bunch of people who maybe only go see a movie once every couple months, and if they have a choice between the biggest Marvel movie that's ever been made or a side story in Star Wars, they're gonna go to Infinity War. Everybody knew that was gonna be there, and Disney made this $2 billion plus, off of Infinity War, and cost themselves money on Solo at the same time.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, like, with Kathleen Kennedy making the decision about doing Solo over Boba Fett, over Obi-Wan, like, maybe I didn't really even think of that. That's why some people were kind of turned off too, because they want that Boba Fett movie so much.
It could be.
So
I mean, even
pissed
before
at her for that reason.
Even before The Last Jedi, Solo didn't seem to be a movie people were clamoring for.
Right.
I think just the idea of casting someone else in that role that's not Harrison Ford, you've already got people that don't want to see the movie.
Yeah.
So I think it already had an uphill battle.
So people hate on her for that reason as well. Like, why do we have this movie that nobody really wanted? Where's my Boba Fett movie?
Yeah, that could be part of it. I do sort of, just not to like cut everybody off, but I do want to try to keep it moving. I'm going to leave everybody with this. Just for the record, do we think Kathleen Kennedy is going to either get fired or retire sometime soon? And if you think soon, when might that be? Like, do you think she'll be out before episode 9?
No.
No.
Mike?
Yep.
Paula?
No, I really don't. I think she's already had a vision for what's happening down the road with Star Wars, and I really don't think she's going to leave.
At all, or not? Just not before 9?
Not before 9.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Mike. I think you're in the minority. I'm going to say if she leaves at all, it's going to be after 9. I think especially since they're in the middle of production for 9, so I don't think they'd axe her now. I think if anything, they wait till 9 comes out. If 9 is a hit and brings people back to the franchise and it makes a shit ton of money, I could see her sticking it out and them letting her go, kind of. But if somehow if episode 9 underperforms, I think she will be a casualty.
I can see what you're saying there. But let's also not forget that we still have 18 months until 9. So with 18 months to go until 9, if there is any further rumbling in any way about problems at Lucasfilm, if whatever movie's coming after 9 will be in production before 9 releases, obviously, because it'll be going. And I think if anything goes wrong with whatever that movie is, the instant it goes wrong, there's going to be backlash against her, and it's going to,
Yeah, I don't know. I think with everything, it just seems like to me, I'm interpreting as like the higher ups at Disney are reading Twitter. And that's how they're basing their decisions. And that irritates the fuck out of me.
It irritates me too, but that's the reason I think that she gets the axe. Is because
right. Yeah, if that's where they're getting their information, then yes.
Yeah.
Hands down, she's going to be gone.
Yeah, I don't agree with the decision.
Because the vocal minority of butthurt Star Wars fans are all over Twitter all the time.
Yep. And, that's what I'm basing my judgment on, is not what I want to see, just where they're getting bad information off of the wrong sources.
Right, yeah. I want to spin back around to the spin-off movies. Like, we sort of talked about it, but I don't think we got too much in depth. Do we think they are halted, or do we think they're being reworked?
I don't even think they were, like...
You don't think they halted at all for whatever reason? They're still in the pipeline going?
They never really even announced them, so they've always just been rumors.
Yeah.
So, Boba Fett... Obi-Wan, and even a Yoda movie, like, they've all kind of just been like, let's talk about it, but nothing's ever really come to fruition,
right?
Like Solo had. So, but someone needs to do something before Ewan McGregor gets old.
Yeah,
or maybe they're waiting for him to get older.
Oh, good point.
Andy, you want to jump in?
Sorry,
I was just gonna say that maybe they didn't put a halt to things. Maybe they're just kind of tweaking their strategy a little bit. And then people are like, oh my God, fuck us. It's not going to happen now. We're just tweaking a little bit, just turn that dial one way or the other. I just think they,
And I think that's a valid argument. I think after Solo disappointed at the box office, they're going to go, whoa, wait a minute. We don't want to spend 150, 200 million on these movies anymore and take a hit. If we can cut that budget in half and do something for around 100 million, $90 million,
yeah, just a little tweak.
Limit their losses.
You don't need to fucking shut down Lucasfilm for all the butthurt Star Wars fans out there.
Right. And I think that's more along the way I would think, is that they're looking to say So instead of trying to make these a giant blockbuster film, how can we do something like what Deadpool did when it first came out? How can we take a smaller budget and turn a Boba Fett movie, the Obi-Wan movie, a Lando movie, something like that? How can we turn that into a smaller budget, big success movie? And, I mean, the answer's always been right there in front of you when it comes to Star Wars, is less special effects. Make it more story and content driven as opposed to space battle driven. People want to see space battles. Space battles are fun, but less of them and more dialogue, more story will solve a lot of that problem for them.
And I think the prime example of like a mid-budget Star Wars movie would be that Obi-Wan movie. He's alone in the desert on Tatooine. That's one set. You're not worried about traveling the galaxy for that kind of special effects. Granted, I'd love to see him turn on his lightsaber, but if you do the story right, he probably doesn't even have to turn on his lightsaber. That's special effects that you don't need there. Like, there are ways around it for an Obi-Wan movie where you could make that for $60, $70, $80 million.
Yep.
And even to the point of that, some of the rumors that I was hearing too is that they're possibly rethinking where to distribute some of these movies. So there's certain sites reporting that they might be saving some of these standalone movies for Disney's streaming service next year.
Oh, don't do that.
If they do that, would you pay for Disney streaming service?
Yes.
No. I would protest it. That would be something to me that's something I stand against. That's Disney saying fuck you to fans. Like, that's saying, fuck you, pay me more, bitch. I got your fix over here.
But that's why they're buying all these licenses.
Oh,
that's why they have Pixar. That's why they have Marvel. That's why they have Star Wars. That's why they're going to get Fox.
I know what's coming. I'm just not happy about it. All right. I'm happy about it and I'm sad about it at the same time. I'm happy
because I've already conceded. Like, I know I'm going to sign up for this Disney streaming service, whatever it is, whenever it debuts. I have to be a subscriber now. So telling me that there's a possibility to get Star Wars movies on top of whatever Star Wars TV shows they put on this service is like icing on the cake.
For me to be willing to pay for it, there is going to have to be a lot of content that's new content that is produced. If they're just putting the entire library of stuff they've already made there and making like one season of something similar to Rebels every year, count me out. I have no interest in it whatsoever. If they're putting out a movie every quarter and they're putting out a season of some show every quarter, okay, you're gaining my interest more.
Well, they announced that new series by the Game of Thrones kids, so
yeah.
Is it going to be a movie? Is it going to be on the streaming?
Yeah, I think the Game of Thrones stuff is some sort of movie series. It's not clear if it's 2 or 3 movies.
Okay, but Rian Johnson's also doing a trilogy,
right? Yes, but I mean, like Rian Johnson stuff, I can see being bigger budget, and I don't know what the Game of Thrones. There's no details on what the Game of Thrones producers are making, so we don't know what kind of budget that is or what story that could be.
Right,
but those I would imagine would be theatrical releases somewhere down. They need something after this next trilogy is over, after 9. And if they want to hedge their bets with the standalone movies and sort of keep them under wraps or lower budget, or if the standalone is what hits the streaming service just as another avenue, then I think all the other movies that are in current production right now, the Rian Johnson's trilogy and the stuff from the Game of Thrones producers, I can see that stuff being theatrical.
Well, they can't possibly have a streaming service and not have, something like that for us.
I mean, I think there's going to be Star Wars content, definitely, on that service. What I don't know is if it's going to be brand new movies on that service.
Yeah. And
that's where I'm a little unclear.
And I mean, even for me, it's something where it better, you need the Star Wars content, but you need the Marvel content along with that. I mean, all that stuff they're talking about, I'm going to need, new Marvel shows being put on there, new, something to, I don't know, make it worthwhile. Because it's Disney and they're going to charge you some insane price for a monthly fee.
I feel like they can't go much over what other people are charging. I could see $10 to $15 a month for something like that.
The first number that comes to my mind is $24.99 from Disney. See,
if it goes over 15, I don't think you're going to get a lot of people. I would still be hesitant. As much as I would want that content, I'd be hesitant to do it for $25 a month. 15, I could do.
If they keep the price right, yeah, I could see it working, but I just know Disney. Like I just did. Like you go and try and buy any old Disney Pixar movie on Amazon on any like digital format. The Incredibles is a good example. It's still $25 on Amazon to buy digital Incredibles, or digital Beauty and the Beast, digital The Lion King, digital. Any of these movies are still like original shelf price.
Right.
Any other movie's down to $6 when it's that old, but not from Disney.
All right, so we kind of talked about whether or not we personally would do the streaming service one way or the other. Do you think that Disney will release some sort of original Star Wars movie on the streaming service? Yes or no?
Netflix is doing it, so why not them? I'm not happy about it, but yeah, they're going to do it.
I agree.
Definitely.
Paula? Okay.
Oh, yeah. They got to put Dave Filoni to work somehow.
Well, he's working on the next animated series.
Yeah, so it's probably going to come out on the streaming service.
Yeah, but
I think that was already announced. I think they already said that.
But we're talking
really?
straight up movie, though.
Oh,
We're
yes.
talking
like a live like if Obi-Wan, the spin-off Obi-Wan movie gets made, will that end up on the streaming service, or will it be theatrical? Or do you think they'll just do theatrical for all the live action Star Wars movies?
Maybe that's what they're looking at right now.
Yeah, I definitely think they're trying to figure out if that's viable. Like I don't know where the profit is on that. If people were paying $15 a month for something that they could pay in the theater to see multiple times, I feel like it would make more money in the theater. Or at the very least, you could do theatrical release and then like 3 or 4 months later, put it on the streaming service, just like Netflix or something would do. I think that would be a way to go.
So maybe Star Wars doesn't have to be big budget every single time. Like maybe we're thinking too much into it has to make. I mean, obviously there's problems with Solo, but maybe it doesn't have to be a blockbuster every single time. Like you were just saying, like maybe cut the production costs, make it a little smaller, and then, the fans just have to get used to it not always being a blockbuster.
I don't see a problem with any of these movies just turning into like cult classics,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Solo still has time to be a really solid cult classic. Because, I mean, that's years down the road. People are like, man, this fucking movie is great, and we're going to buy the shit out of it now because now, like, people are like, sometimes it takes a year or two for movies to be like, wow, this movie's, damn, like.
I'm going to buy the shit out of it on initial release.
Oh, yeah. But that's even more to the point, like Paula was saying with the budget. If Solo's budget of $250 million got cut to $100 million, then the $350 worldwide that it made actually turns a profit. So if you just sort of hedge your bets and not put as much into the movie as maybe you think you need, or tweak the script where it doesn't require, like Mike said, as many special effects and that kind of thing, and keep it a little bit more intimate to cut the budget. I think then when it makes $150 million, it's either breaking even or making a little bit of a profit where it's not a complete failure. Then, we thought this movie needed to make $500 million to try to break even. I think they wanted it to make $1 billion. That's just what Star Wars does.
And I think that's part of the reason the panic button seems to have been hit, and why people think the panic button's been hit even if it actually hasn't, is that, Disney acquires Lucasfilm and all this, and they make 3 movies, and you have $4 billion off of 3 movies, and then the 4th movie that comes out makes $350 million? And that's why the panic button seems to have been hit, is what the hell just happened? Why did it drop? Like, they probably expected a drop because of all these other outside reasons. But when the drop was so big, from 1 point this billion, 1 point that billion, and then 300 million, whoa, what just happened? And I think that's the biggest thing, is just not that it didn't necessarily make that much money, it's just, holy crap, it's that low.
Yeah.
And maybe, Disney doesn't know much about the casual Star Wars fan. Like the person who's just going to a movie because it's a movie and not because it's just Star Wars. But, we go because we love Star Wars. We know the story. We know the backstory. But maybe the casual person is like, I really don't need to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie because that's
they go for the episodes and the stuff in between doesn't really care for them. Yeah.
Right. If they think it's not going to be big budget, they're not going to go. So.
Right, but I mean, like, I don't know, Rogue One still killed it. But I think that...
I honestly think there was a lot of people that went to Rogue One thinking it was a sequel to Force Awakens.
You thought people were...
There was still...
You give people little credit. You always think people are so stupid.
No, because I talked to different people that said the exact same thing for me. They watched the trailer with the Death Star in it and Darth Vader, and the first question is, oh, Darth Vader's back from the dead. Oh, they built another Death Star. No, this is not a sequel to what you saw the year before. People could not wrap their hand around that from the trailer. They just see familiar Star Wars things and say, I'm going to see it.
I guess I give the population too much credit for...
I assume everyone's an idiot, and it seems to work out pretty well.
I usually talk to everyone like they're idiots, but I assume they're smarter than they are. I don't know.
All right, because I do want to kind of wrap this up a little bit. I'm trying to think of like some final thoughts here. If they are not halting the standalone movies and going forward with standalone movies, which standalone movies do you think will be announced, if any?
I'm gonna give you two. One is fingers crossed, Ahsoka. Like just give. I would die for that. The one in most that I think is an Obi-Wan movie. I think that'll get announced. That's just the next logical step in my mind.
Okay, Paula.
Wow, I agree with Mike. Oh, that hurt.
We should write that today on the calendar.
We can disagree about Raylo all you want, but we can agree about Ahsoka and Ahsoka being awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely, if they told us something at Star Wars Celebrations and it's Ahsoka, I'm going to lose my shit. Like, I'm going to run around, like, take my shirt off, put it around my head like a helicopter, just, like, go crazy. But I have to say, like, the most information I was getting on the interweb was about a Boba Fett movie. So,
okay.
I mean, we need more of him, of course. So that's, and with, the
as far as
director from Logan would be an amazing
Yeah,
movie.
I think as far as all the rumors have been for these standalone movies, Boba Fett's still the only one that seems like if James Mangold is working on Boba Fett, that's the one that still seems like it has a director attached.
Right.
There was a rumored director for Obi-Wan. The rumors that I read recently had said he left the project before Solo came out.
Right.
So if Obi-Wan is happening, it's directorless and doesn't have a script yet.
Exactly.
Boba Fett seems like it may be moving forward, so that's a possibility. Andy, what do you think?
Boy, I hope that Boba Fett's an R-rated movie.
Oh, I don't think they'd do that ever with a Star Wars movie.
Man, it worked with Logan.
It did. I don't think we'll see it, but it's a nice thought.
I honestly don't have any predictions, but I hope Obi-Wan and Boba Fett.
Okay. We talked about it a little bit, I think, on the Solo review, too. If they do a Boba Fett movie, I'd rather see not Boba Fett have his own movie. I'd rather see Boba Fett spin into the Solo sequel. That's what I want to see. But as far as standalone, character-driven story, Obi-Wan for me is the top of my list. I don't know what that movie would... I mean, like, I have an idea what that movie would be.
Can I...
Of him watching over Luke and stuff like that, but I do want to see
Can I make a separate suggestion? As well as something that maybe we haven't thought of, that maybe hasn't been pitched around, that maybe they... If they're smart, they would have done this and they would have kept it under big wraps. But, what about Luke?
A Luke origin story or something like that?
No origin story. Luke since Return of the Jedi. What happened? Where's he been? What's been going on? Tell that story, between then and Force Awakens fully. Not with
the difference...
the flashback stuff with Ben and all that. Tell the full story.
I think if they did that, the only way they could do it is have Mark Hamill and de-age him in the computer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the fact that you have him in the original trilogy and then you have him 30 years after that, if you put a different actor in that gap, it's going to be really fucking weird.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about
with Han Solo
because... I'm not talking different actor. I'm talking like legit, tell us the story of what the Knights of Ren were. Make that the basis of the Solo Luke movie.
Okay. I like the concept. I don't think we'll get it, but I like where your head's at. Actually, you know what? Close second for me. I want a Vader movie. I've talked about this before. I
Subduing
want
the
something.
galaxy?
Yeah, I want something between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope where he's just ripping the shit out of Jedi, hunting them down. And I don't think he's the main character. I think he's the Terminator of that movie. I think you frame it from the point of view of the Jedi on the run from him, and he's hunting them down and picking them off one by one. That's I would kill for that. Like the scene in Rogue One, make that a movie.
Yeah, I was about to say that would. Yeah, we could tie Ahsoka into that real easy.
That's true too.
But yeah, I know where you were going. The scene in Rogue One. More of that, please, anytime.
Yes.
Just
yes.
make that a whole movie. And I'll just watch him just kill people for 2 hours.
Yes.
I don't care.
They've planted the seed in that for Rogue One, and now that you've seen it, you must have more. And it'd be very easy to do. You stick whoever is tall and big in the Vader suit, and you're fine. It doesn't have to be a big actor. It just has to be some guy in a suit.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it happen. We talked about what we think we might see. Any idea when they might announce some of these movies? We'll try to wrap up with that one.
I think you get your next announcement when you guys are at Celebration.
I agree.
You guys are going to Celebration?
Me, Paula, and our friend Leslie is going to go. So there's 3 of us decided we're going to go to Chicago.
Oh, it's in Chicago this year?
It is in Chicago. I expected to be overseas, but then when it said it was Chicago, I was like, I could drive to that.
Yeah, I may drive for a day or two. I'm not staying for the full 5. I may buy tickets and just go for like the Saturday, Sunday thing. But
you might want to look. I think Saturday might be sold out already.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, it went a lot quicker than when we went.
Yeah. Which is weird, considering all the stuff that's going on, and now the tickets
right. All the people that hate Star Wars.
Okay.
I hate Star Wars. Here's my money.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so Star Wars Celebration Chicago is in April of 2019. So I think, just like when Mike and I went, April was when they debuted the trailer for Last Jedi. I imagine they will debut the trailer for Episode 9 there. And with it being that big of a Star Wars convention, it makes sense to announce other movies that come out there. So I think that's the logical guess, so I would agree. And I'm sure we could really dig into this some more. I'm trying to keep it moving because I think we've hit our time limit.
We have.
So any kind of closing thoughts to wrap this up?
Just frustrated. Just frustrated with the angry fans all over the place. It's just kind of cathartic to get it off.
Yeah.
My chest.
It always seems like it's the vocal douchebags that ruin it for everyone.
Yeah.
Who may or may not even be
and it was
fans
so funny because
yeah, that too.
It's just Twitter.
And everything on Twitter was like, "See what you did? Now you've ruined Obi-Wan for the rest of us."
Right.
So thanks.
Yeah.
So thanks a bunch.
If the true fans are really the ones that are so butthurt about it, I think at your celebration, if we're going to get an announcement of one of these, you have a black screen, you have the tops of a couple Leku sticking up, and a couple of white lightsabers light up in a cross, and that's all you give them. But you make it very clear that it's live action. You don't give it a title, you give it nothing else. Make it very clear it's a live action thing. That's all you give them, and those fans are instantly back on board.
That would be a good promo. Yeah.
I'd lose it. I'd like
Kathleen Kennedy,
right
hire me.
I'm gonna have to.
You don't even have to put a date on it.
Pants.
You'll have your fans back instantly. You don't even have to be like, "Oh, coming in 2020." No, just make it happen, and then they'll forget.
Yeah.
Paula, we'll get you some adult diapers for the weekend.
Oh my god, I'm gonna need Depends. Seriously. What's that smell? Oh, they showed the Ahsoka trailer.
Everybody smells anyway that weekend. It's
oh, good. I'm gonna get an education.
I spent 18 hours in line. 18 hours in line.
That happened.
I'm sure we didn't. Nobody smelled good at the end of that.
Andy, any closing thoughts? It's hard to top that shit into diaper thing.
Yeah. No, I don't think I have anything. I hope they just tweak it. I hope they don't stop everything. A little bit of tweaking can go a long way, and I think people are just kind of like, oh my god, freaking out about stuff that's not really a huge deal.
Yeah. We'll have to check back in with you after you've got around to seeing Solo.
Yeah.
See what you think.
Yeah, I think it's already out of theaters, so I'm gonna have to wait a little while.
If it isn't, it's probably got one more weekend before it's gone. Yeah, I agree with what most of these guys said. I'm hoping they're tweaking some stuff, maybe lowering some budgets, rethinking a little bit of their approach with some of these spinoffs, but I do not want the spinoffs to go away. I hope we still get them. I'm looking forward to them. I'm hoping at some point they're taking the wrong lessons away from why Solo failed. I think it's a lot of the other reasons we mentioned, release date and possibly franchise fatigue, too close to Last Jedi, that kind of thing. But I guarantee you after 9, they're going to try to push another... For whatever reason, they're married to these May release dates, and I think it's a really stupid idea when you've had 3 movies cross $1 billion that released in December, and now you release one in May that you're hell-bent on releasing in May, and it doesn't even hit $500 million. But that's not the lesson they're going to take away. So I'm hoping somebody gets wise and learns the right stuff from this little hiccup, and that they come back and nail it with a lot of these movies, because we all love Star Wars. We don't want Star Wars to go away, and if these butthurt fanboys have their way, they're going to kill everything for us. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen. As far as the podcast is concerned, like sort of what Andy was saying, having trouble seeing movies, we're having trouble keeping up with movie reviews. I'm falling behind on Incredibles 2. Jurassic Park was this past weekend. I'm anxious to talk about those two. Ant-Man comes out very soon, so that's another one we're going to have to hit. So we might have some reviews to churn out somewhere next month, hopefully. We will try to get around to those. Andy, I guess you probably haven't seen any, but Paula and Mike, have you guys seen any of those other movies?
Yeah, I saw Incredibles. It was amazing.
Okay.
I'm going to see Jurassic Park probably Saturday, I think.
Did you see Incredibles yet or no?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I wasn't as into Incredibles. I liked it, but I wasn't like hyped up and willing to go and put up with a bunch of children in the theater.
You're terrible.
I can't deal with kids in the theater. I can't do it. So like I want to strangle parents.
You'd be surprised how many kids were in Jurassic Park too.
True, but I'm not going opening weekend for that either. There's certain ones I just avoid opening weekend. And Incredibles and Jurassic Park, I'm not putting up with kids. Infinity War, I'll deal with it to go see that.
Fair enough. All right, so we'll probably have to try to loop back around and cover some of those movies after. That'll be way late, but we'll try to get to them at some point. As far as this show, if you've enjoyed the show, please stop by iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Be sure to share, subscribe, favorite the show, which is now available on Google Play. I say that as if it just happened. It's been there for a couple months. Hopefully you've found it by now. As always, you can find us on Facebook, search Bry Guy and Super Friends, or go to facebook.com/Bry Guy and Super Friends. Like the page, leave us a comment, questions, topic suggestions, any of that stuff. I will find it there. I won't find it on the email address and Twitter account that I'm about to list, but you can try us anyway at bgsuperfriends, bryguysuperfriends at gmail.com. It helps if I give the right address. Or there's at bgsuperfriends on Twitter. All of those will work. I probably won't see them. You can try me anyway. We'll get you eventually.
I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff on this.
I hope you do.
Please check out the Sweet and Savory Couple.
Oh, there you go. Mike's plug too. On behalf of Paula, Andy, Mike, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.